Hi, and welcome to the BookishStitcher podcast. My name is Jeanette. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Goodreads as BookishStitcher all in word. I hope you've had a wonderful last week since I podcasted. As you can see from the episode title, this is a new month and featuring a new designer. So it's February, and the designer for February is Stephen West. And no, Stephen West is not here with me. It was funny when I did the Vera Valimaki designer spotlight, I got a couple of notes from people that were confused, upset that Vera Valimaki was not with me. And she looks like a really cool person, so I'd love to, she and I could just have a knit time at my house. But no, she was not there, and Stephen West's not here, and honestly, none of the designer spotlight people will be here for their spotlights. I would probably be too nervous to even, I wouldn't be good at interviewing, basically. But yeah, so this weekend I had a really fun time. I got to go hang out with some friends at a coffee shop yesterday and knit, and I actually have a ton of knitting stuff done to show you. So I finished my daughter's tube socks. Well, they still need the ends woven in, but they fit her wonderfully and go up to her knees. And I did the tube sock, but I did a miniature gusset, or a little gusset, where her at the back of her heel, so as she grows it'll kind of help her get the heel arch part of her foot in. But those are done, and this was out of some knit picks in the candy jar color, and she loves them and is very excited to get to wear those now that I've shown them. And then the next thing I have done is the Fathom beanie, and this is a Vera Valimaki pattern from my month where I highlighted a bunch of her things. And so it's this gorgeous hat with a texture pattern around it and a cable going up, and it still needs its end woven in. And the yarn that I used for this was Unwind Yarn Company in the Gracie Pearl colorway on her sport base, because it's a sport hat. It's kind of basically the equivalent of a sockhead hat with texture and cables, because it's knit very nearly on the same needles as a sockhead hat is, and except for a little bit longer of a brim, it's about the same. And then I finished this is called the Looking Ahead or Looking Forward, I can't remember that name, but it is done out of some Lydia yarns and the Garden Party colorway. It's her DK base, and this was supposed to be for me. Because I could tell from the pattern, the way that Vera was wearing it, that it wasn't going to be long enough for me, I even lengthened it, but I didn't lengthen it enough, so it is now going to go to my daughter, and she loves these colors, so we tried it on her and it fits her really well. And this has a longer brim than most patterns, but it also has this really cool texture. And so the decreases, it has a texture that is done with a certain number of stitches and done and through a pattern repeat. But because of the way you are decreasing, and I don't think there are any decreases that wouldn't have done this, but it kind of messes with the texture pattern, so it is not uniform, does not retain its texture pattern. As you get up to the top, you can kind of tell that, like right here, it started making ribbing and it started doing kind of crazy things. But since it's at the very top of the hat, and this pattern actually calls for a pom-pom, and I am going to do one because my daughter would like that, I don't think it'll be very visible, but I know that a couple people on the pattern notes for this didn't like that aspect of it. So if you're someone who really needs everything to line up perfectly, or I have OCD in different ways than that, but if your OCD kind of would go in that realm, then this might not be the pattern for you. I think a big pom-pom on top will hide any of those. So yeah, it's a hat for my daughter, all done. So 3 finished objects. As you'll notice, there are no finished giant shawls or sweaters or anything that I'd hoped to finish by the end of last month, but I'm just gonna kind of be relaxed about that since I'm doing this whole designer thing. I know that it's gonna end up with some whips, and probably, next year I'll work this year and next year on kind of getting those down to a more manageable space. And also, I did it throughout the year with the designers. Some are heavier yardage month where there's a lot of yardage, and then I would intersperse that through the year with some pattern designers where I'm not knitting a sweater from them, I'm knitting like a little bookmark. So it'll be spaced out enough to where not every month is so big that I'll end up with leftover whips from it. But I'm still loving those leftover whips. I'm loving the Be Kind shawl. I didn't bring it to show in the interest of time because I'm going to be doing something special this episode other than the designer spotlight, but I'm still loving those. And I worked on my Be Kind shawl, and I worked on my Cloud Bay sweater for my best friend, and I keep working on them, but I did bring some other things to show you guys. And I think because I'm doing the designer spotlight, I'll kind of talk about Stephen West first and show some of his things that I've knit, and then go into my whips. So if you saw, well, you probably saw especially if you're watching on YouTube, the little picture for this episode, I was trying to channel my inner Stephen West. I had my hat popped up and I was holding up a shawl, kind of Stephen West-ish. But the interesting thing about Stephen West is he started designing patterns in April of 2009. And if you look at his design aesthetic from then to his design aesthetic now, day and night, kind of was one of those designers that started out in a more neutral kind of any knitter could feasibly want to knit, and then he kind of found his own little niche where he likes it. And they're very cool constructions. They're often with very bright colors that he chooses, and a lot of times I've heard people say they're more fun knits than very practical utilitarian knits. And I do wear a lot of my Stephen West knits, but they aren't as simplistic maybe as other ones. But honestly, his knits are some of the most fun knits that I have ever done. And so other things that I found out about Stephen West as I was researching this, he is from Amsterdam, or currently lives in Amsterdam, and he owns a brick and mortar, is co-owner of a brick and mortar yarn store there called Stephen and Penelope, which I would love to go to someday. And I've heard wonderful things about it from people that have gone. And he's really a pretty well-rounded designer. He does hats, he does shawls, he does garments. He's done some around the home things such as blankets. He doesn't do any toys, and I don't believe he's done very few socks. He's done like leg warmers, but not as much on the like patterned sock category stuff. But another thing that I found that I really enjoy about Stephen West, and I know people love him or they love to hate him, but he has a YouTube channel, and he will occasionally put up videos and like his alternate personality telling you how to wear a shawl, or he does these funny ones where he does a music video and has dancing and music, and it's just kind of absurd. And so if it's your kind of humor, then I don't know, I personally think they're funny, and if I need a laugh, sometimes I will go and watch one of his videos. He's been doing vlogs for a while, and you can definitely tell in the vlogs that he loves bright neon colors. And he doesn't do, I tried to look on Ravelry to find out if he had a blog that he originally was doing when he started publishing patterns, and he did, but it is no longer online, so you can't really go and see any of that. I'm just finishing, my tea was steeping. I'm having some coconut cream pie tea from David's. And so yeah, I think that's about everything about him that I had. I did want to share some of my things of his that I've done with you. And so the one that's in the picture that you saw is my doodler, and the ends are not woven in. Maybe this will shame me into weaving in the ends. I haven't worn this yet. It was such a fun knit, but like I said, it is, I know how to style it and how to wear it. It's probably that I just picked color. I really wanted colors that were going to be very beautiful and fun, and I would want to keep knitting. But while they were that, I don't know that I wear them a lot. It's almost too bright for me. But I should just wear it more. Pair it with like a gray outfit and it would be fine. But this is the doodler shawl, and it is just as bright and as cheerful as it looks. And it's really soft. I do wear it at home. I don't wear it out because the ends aren't sewn in, but the yarn is so soft that I will just drape it around myself at home. And it was a very fun construction, and I absolutely loved it. Now this bottom section here, I took a little bit of, okay, you can do this. And then kind of show the difference between his design aesthetic. That was the Doodler, and that's a more recent one. But then, I believe this was his third or fourth pattern that he ever published. And this needs to be reblocked. But this is the Daybreak shawl. And he also, in the pattern, even used more subdued colors. You can definitely tell that his color preference changed. But it's a great knit. It was very, you know, kind of will keep you warm. It's nothing crazy. It wasn't, the design construction wasn't crazy. It was just, so you can see, a very simple knit. Simple but effective, and it's covered in my hair. But yeah, it's very warm. It's a nice DK weight, I believe. I don't know if the pattern calls for DK or if I just did it in DK. And this one has never been blocked because it is, I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast. I have a box of gift knits because I've discovered over time that it's really good to have this. Because I had a friend that was moving to Alaska, and she kind of told it, this was years ago, she kind of told us all last, like, 2 weeks before she left or something, I was invited to a going away party. And I had no idea, and there wasn't enough time for me to, you know, with busy life, knit her an entire thing. So now I've learned to have a box where I have some stuff where if I need something, I can pull it out. And I do that with baby knits too, because I like to knit baby knits, and I'll just put them in a gift box. But this is, I think it's backwards. This is the Pagonia shawl by Stephen West. Of course, it will grow a little bit with blocking, but he has gotten bigger in his knitwear like preferences. So this is just one skein of Lorna's laces, and it's this is about the time where he started playing with cool design construction. So this is neat in how it's done with these different shaped triangles, but it's nothing crazy, but it's just kind of interesting construction. And then another shawl I have of his that I wear all the time. I purposefully knew that I wanted a worsted weight shawl for wrapping around my shoulders at night because the vent for air conditioning is right above the bed, and at night we keep it really hot during the day in the summers or whatever time of year, but we don't often turn on air conditioning in the daytime. But then at night, if it's hot in the summer, we will, or even if it's cool in the winter, because we don't really turn on the heat because I don't like to pay for this. But so if the air is blowing on me, even in the summer, I will need a shawl around my shoulders when I am reading at night, and then I can take it off right before I crawl under the covers. But this needs to be re-washed because I wear it at bedtime. But this is the Iberian Discovery shawl. It's a worsted weight shawl, and it was immensely fun to knit and crazy fast, and it didn't take any amount of time. And the worsted weight knit up really fast on size 9. It's very, very long, so it wraps around me beautifully. I love this sea glass color, and the welts were really fun to do. It was just a great pattern, and I highly enjoyed it. So this is again one of his newer ones, kind of not as new, but kind of around the time where he started transitioning into really cool construction, and I think he's kind of made that a very big thing of his. And he likes to do summer or different times of year mystery shawl knit alongs, and I think he kind of has a bit of a cult following that would tons of people love to join in and knit those. So I think if you're not a big fan of Stephen West patterns currently, maybe check out some of his older stuff. I personally like it all. The newer ones are very interesting and fun to knit, and the older patterns are very kind of utilitarian and pieces that you'll wear every day, even if you are not brave enough like me to wear the really cool constructed ones, because I know some people wear their other ones out all the time. I like to kind of blend into the background instead of stand out. Okay, so with that, all those showing of those shawls, I am knitting my very first Stephen West sweater, and this is in a Bags by Awesome Granny bag. It's kind of my Valentine's Day bag. And I started the Enchanted Mesa out of handspun. And this is kind of like the, you know, they have the Find Your Fade shawl that's going around everywhere right now. This is kind of the Find Your Handspun Fade sweater because it's addictive. I had to make myself work on other things and not carry this around everywhere because I was just loving it. So I have gotten a bit done. Started it 2 days ago, and I've already gotten quite a lot done, and I'm dipping it in the tea. But this is the sweater. Now, I cast on for the number it said and can gauge, but I think because I'm not doing the turtleneck option, which is not option, but the pattern has a turtleneck, and I decided not to do that, that what I'm gonna do afterwards is save some of this yarn, this hand spun, and go and crochet around the neck until I can make it in more. I do not like low cut things at all, and I've seen on some of the patterns that it is quite low cut if you don't do the turtleneck. But yeah, I have this one color, and then I added the next color, and now I've started adding in this third color, and then there are 2 more kind of little short row sections to go. And I just think it's so much fun seeing the hand spun come together with the colors. It's awesome, and I'm trying not to be too like, oh, those don't match exactly, they can't go together. But we've got some non-sparkle, we've got some sparkle, we've got some sheen. It's just all kinds of, this is some of my very first hand spun on a drop spindle, and it's nice and squishy, but it's definitely thick and thin, of course, because drop spindling first attempts. But yeah, I absolutely love this, and I can see this going by very quickly because even when you get to the body, I have a whole bunch of different hand spuns that I'm going to use, and I'm going to kind of fade them in and out from lighter to the darkest at the bottom. So I think that will just keep my interest in this going and going. And it's going to use up so much of my hand spun, about half of my hand spun that I collected. So that's that. And then, like I said, I worked on other things, but I didn't want to bring everything and show it, especially because the Be Kind and the Cloud Bay, they aren't super noticeable, the difference, and the Be Kind is so squished up on even the longest needles that I had that I just kind of want to wait till I can show it in all its glory when it's off the needles. And this is in a 3 Munchkin stitching, Little Monkey Sit and Spin bag, sorry about that. And it's Doctor Who, and in it are some socks for my husband. I worked on these. I cast them on a little while ago because I always want to have socks for him on the needles now, I decided. And so I cast them a little while ago, and I worked on them predominantly yesterday because I was out with friends and I didn't want to have something more complicated because I knew I would mess it up. But this yarn is it's either Opal or Regia. Don't remember right now, but it's just, it forms its own pattern, and they're the very kind of tough wearing socks. So I know that he won't wear through these easily, and because I made the mistake for him of knitting socks in 100% merino once. And while I can get away with that because my daughter and I wear our socks in the house, my son and my husband wear them in their shoes out everywhere. And I rarely wear mine in my shoes, but these will be nice for him and will last him for hopefully several years. And then I brought out to show you guys, it's not really a work in progress yet because I haven't started working on it yet, but this is going to be after I get my Cloud Bay done, this is going to be my whip for this month that I want to work on, because Stephen West was not originally one of my designers that I wanted to spotlight this year, but I knew that if I was going to get some of my whips done, I needed to have the designers kind of line up with a whip that I had currently in progress. And there were tons of Stephen West patterns that I had been wanting to knit, so it kind of worked out. And this is in a Diana Couture bag. I have talked tons about how much I love her bags for 2-color shawls. And I'm excited because I'm pretty sure I'm getting one for my birthday from my husband. I might try to get him to give it to me earlier because the one I asked for is St. Patrick's Day themed, and if I could have it at the beginning of March so I could knit with it all month. In here, it's not even at the end of a row, it's in the middle of one, but in here is the exploration station. So I'm on the brioche section, and I hadn't knit brioche in forever, and everybody was saying how much they were loving it, and I thought, oh, I should knit some brioche again. It's been a long time. And then I remembered why I don't knit brioche, because it's not really for me. I don't enjoy it. I know how to do it. It's not that it's too hard for me or that I don't get it. I just don't like it. Kind of like, I love cables, I love intricate lace, and some people do not like that. Some people, you know, love intarsia. I know how to do intarsia, but I don't like it. I'd rather duplicate stitch. But that's something I'm going to try to get done probably this month or finish it up at the beginning of next month. And then the last work in progress I wanted to show you, one of my goals for this year has been to knit up a mini every week. But I wasn't going to show you the progress on that every week because it would just be small. So I said I was going to show it at the beginning of each month. So this is my blanket for my son. The ends are not woven in. It's kind of crazy. But it's getting bigger, and that is thanks to doing at least one a week. And it feels really good to have this growing. So there's some squares from yarn that was given to me by my friend Bonnie, Classical Cat, from my friend Melinda, Yarnder Woman, from my friend Andy, from Andre Sue Knits, from my friend Robin, who's Half Past or Medieval Listing, depending, I believe, on Instagram or Ravelry. And so it's just been great knitting up these minis from friends and seeing it grow. It actually feels like a blanket now. So I was asking my son how big he wanted it because I need to know how far across, and hopefully he doesn't want it as big as my daughter's, because I did start a crochet blanket for my daughter, and it's going to be a king size one because it has over 400 chained on stitches. I didn't realize it's going to be huge, but I'm not going to show that this week. Maybe when maybe at the end of the year on that one, when I've got a sizable amount done, just because there's so many stitches doesn't allow for creating a great depth to it. But yeah, so that is all of my whips. That's a lot. And then I did do more spinning. I did do more spinning this week, but it was on the loop bump bat. It's a bump. And it's just taking a long time. Normally I've only done one other loop bump bat. One other loop bump, and it seemed to fly onto the bobbin. And this one is just keeps breaking, and then I have to stop and find the yarn and then pull it out. It broke over 3 times when I was spinning on Thursday. And so I was talking to my friend Dina, and she was telling me that I might need to adjust the speed at which it's pulling in. And I did do that at first, but I might need to do it even more. But trying to add a lot of twist in it to get it to kind of hold together, and I'm very nervous because I'm hoping to chain ply this because it is a color gradient, and that's kind of what I like to do with those. But if the singles aren't strong enough, it's not going to chain ply well. So we'll have to see. And then after that, I have some group news. So I'm going to be doing something exciting right now because I've never done this, and my friend Mary wrote to me and asked me if I would do this, and I told her I've never done one of these, so are you sure you want me to? And she said yes. So I was going to do it last week, but I ran out of time because last month was a 5 Sunday month, and I just didn't have room on Libsyn for the hosting to iTunes to have a whole longer episode on the last one. I kind of was running out of space. And speaking of iTunes, my husband told me that the numbers on iTunes have doubled, and I don't know why, but if somebody mentioned the podcast or whatever reason it's doubled, thank you, and hello to all the new viewers. I can't he was trying to like tell me about all the numbers and stuff, and I was like, don't tell me, it will make me nervous. So yeah, hello to all the new people, and thank you to everyone who comes back, and that was a tangent. So on to Mary. I am doing a review of her latest book that she had, and she has started doing these things of collaborations with herself and one other designer, and then they get yarn support from different indie dyers. And so her first one I was done with, and I'm not going to remember the name of the very first person she did it with, but this one she did with Susie, Prairie Girl Susie, who I've written a couple times with on Ravelry, and she's just been so sweet. And I would really love to get to go to a retreat or a festival where she is at one day to get to meet her in person and give her a big hug, because I don't know, she cracks me up so much, her and Danny. I always laugh whenever I'm listening to them. And so it was a lot of fun, and I got to meet Mary in person at Into the Wool, and that was wonderful because she speaks Russian basically fluently, I believe, because she lived there, or lived somewhere where Russian was. I think she lived there, maybe in the Ukraine. But her Russian is very awesome, and we didn't have time to talk or to speak to each other in Russian a lot at Into the Wool, because I was too tired on the first day to remember anything other than like very minimal basics of, this is my name, how are you, blah, blah, blah. And then that was it. I was too tired from the drive. But anyways, Mary has contacted different people to do this book, and there are 4 patterns in it, and it is called Counterpoint 2. So Counterpoint 1 she did with another designer in different yarn, and this one is Counterpoint 2, and it was just released February 3rd. And it features the concept of each person has a design thing in mind, and then the other person kind of goes off that one element that they pick from the design, and they come up with kind of separately but together accessories that will hopefully like match really well, and they're really cool concepts. So right here, so as you can see from that picture, it features 2 hats and a neck warmer and a shawl. My favorite of them is actually the yellow. I love green, but I really love the design aesthetic of the yellow set. So here is another picture. So the Springs to Mind hat is the yellow one, and that's by Mary Kino Knits. And the, oh, I'm gonna get this name wrong, Frondrescence shawl was by Prairie Girl Designs, and so that's my favorite one. And then the other one, the Lean Into the Wind neck warmer by Kino Knits, and the Any Way the Wind Blows hat by Prairie Girl Designs. So it's this very cool thing. And it says that, like, the tagline, I guess, for the book is 2 designers plus 2 yarns, an inspiration through collaboration. Each designer independently creates an accessory, then sends only a photo of the finished object to the other. In response, the designers use the same yarn to create a new accessory inspired by the first, thus making a set. The only limits are their creativity. And I know that Mary plans to continue to do more of these with other designers, which I think is just a wonderful way to get to know more of the knitting community. And Mary's so sweet that I can definitely see that in her spirit of loving that community element of it and trying to get a lot of people involved. I looked through the ebook of it, and it's wonderfully written out. It's very clear directions. The charts are nice. It has everything you need for it. And I really think that it's a well done pattern book. So like I said, that is out now. It came out February 3rd. And Mary's so sweet. Mary and Susie are so sweet that they're giving me the ability to give away a copy to you guys. So I will put up a thread prompt for that in the group. And let's say you can either say your favorite pattern from the collection, or you can say maybe who you think it would be awesome for Mary to do a design collaboration with. So I'll have that prompt up in the group, and I'll leave it open for 2 weeks so that you guys can have a chance to enter. And so that is all for the group news. Hopefully I did okay on that book review. If you have any suggestions about the book review that are nice, I'd love to hear them, just because it's my first time doing it and a total newbie to that. So lastly, before the book of the week is Enabling. My husband had asked for some more socks from this certain yarn dyer because he really loved the base. And so one of them came in this week. The other one is not going to be in until after Valentine's Day, but it's my Valentine's Day present for him. This is Twisted Limon, and it is hand-dyed and hand-wound yarn balls of fun. And it's on Etsy. This colorway is Find the River, and he just wanted some bright, happy hand knit socks, because some of them he has, like this one that I'm knitting him, are darker. He wanted some brighter ones too, so he kind of mixed it up. And the base in this, I can totally understand why he loves it, because it is just the softest and squishiest yarn, and her prices are great for self-striping. It's not the normal $40 or $38 that you see. It's like 20 something, but you do have to pay for overseas shipping. And had I been using my brain when I was ordering this, I would have gotten him a yarn buddy to come along on the journey for myself, because I was paying for international shipping anyway, so I didn't think of that. But this is the Find the River color, and her base is a 75-25, 437 yards. And there is some yarn up in the Open Skies yarn shop, and I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who came to the shop this week and either favorited something or left a review for their purchase, or, you know, purchased yarn this week. It just means a lot to me to go on there and see that people like what they've gotten, or that people like the shop. And you know, it's just so sweet of you. And going over and favoriting the shop is just, it's so awesome too, because it's something you can do. It doesn't cost you any money, but it's just really brightens my day. So thank you guys. I'm going to try to dye up some silk yarn this week, because that silk yarn is just the softest silk I've ever felt. And I don't know where all the different yarn bases for silks are, but this is the softest silk I've ever felt. And I just love dyeing it and skating it up and everything, because it's a joy to touch. And I'm going to be knitting a shawl with it in April. So I'm very excited about that. I already have it all planned out, so I'll get to work with my yarn. And then finally is the book this week. And the book is something that was recommended to me by my friend Amy, who's Amy Soros, who's so sweet and just so awesome. And we chat back and forth on Ravelry when we have time. And I really love her friendship, and that I've gotten to know her, and she's on a different continent than me. It's just so cool. And I'm excited about her baby being born. I'm going to knit her some baby knits. But she recommended this book to me, and I'm going to insert a picture of it right here. And the book is called The Bear and the Nightingale. And it is a Russian folklore kind of retold. And as you guys know, I love Russian culture. You know, not everything is perfect about it, and we can go into that like current stuff, but this book takes place during Russia has some very interesting historical cultural things, because if you think about the time of the Tsars, which is the time that I kind of first fell in love with Russia and studying its culture and everything, was around the time of the early 1900s to the late 1800s, kind of around there, the time of the Tsars, the end of the Tsars, basically, before the revolution. But it has this very cool thing with Russian folklore, is that, and I don't think this is common in a lot of cultures, it has the aspects of Christianity, as the Orthodox Church was very big there, but it also had these elements of mysticism, and they had kept a lot of the peasants had a lot of deep held different beliefs about, you know, spirits that kind of helped in the house, like spirit for the little, like a creature that would help for the stables, for the house, for all these different things. And you would leave offerings to them, and in return, they would guard your house from bad things and such like that. But I really enjoyed this book so much, and it's the first time that I've listened to a book or read a book within it just came out. I don't normally do that, but I got it on Audible, and it was, I believe, read by the author, who is Katherine Arden, but that's, if it wasn't read by her, that was at least the author, and it will show you on the picture that I showed who it was read by, and it was read beautifully. The narrator did an amazing job. The book was well written. I loved that it had elements of it pulled in elements of other Russian folklore books that I'd read, like Deathless, which, if you read Deathless, because I recommend that one on the podcast, probably one of my top 5 books of all time, you will like this book, I think. And it brought in elements of the Deathless character from Russian folklore. I didn't see Baba Yaga in it, but there was Morosko, who is like the god of frost and winter and death, of, like, you know, when creatures die, frostbitten and frozen in the snow. And the story is about a girl named Vasya. And Vasya is the last daughter of this woman who kind of has this bloodline of having special powers. And the mother dies in childbirth, and Vasya kind of grows up being raised by a dear family friend who kind of lives with them, like a nurse, a nanny kind of. And because the wife has died, the husband eventually goes to Moscow, and they live on the outskirts. He's like a lord over some lands. He goes to Moscow and gets a new wife. And the wife is very religious, and she sees demons everywhere. And so she's constantly just horror-stricken at everything and very terrified, and going from the very orthodox kind of nature of Moscow to the outer country parts where there's kind of this extreme blending of Christianity and still spirit worship with the old kind of gods, like I was mentioning, or spirits. She just kind of goes crazy, and it's this very neat look at a different angle of that folklore kind of story. And this Batushka, I think I'm saying that right, but I didn't bring over my notes, it's a priest, and he comes in and kind of latches on to the stepmother and tries to get her to reform her daughter, because Vasya still offers sacrifices to the old gods and still believes in them, and she's grown up being able to see them when nobody else can. And it's just this very neat blending of the old and the new with aspects to religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs. And I loved it so much more. I want to keep going and discuss the whole book with you. If you've read this, message me and we can discuss it, because I can't give any more away, but I want to. I want to just be like, and what did you think about this? And what about when this happened? It was that good. I don't know that it would beat out Deathless for my top 5, but top 10 book that I've ever read. Now you have to take into account that I love Russian folklore. If you hate Russian folklore or hate fantasy books, this probably will not be for you. But if you read Deathless and liked it, I pretty much can guarantee you'll like this book. But yeah, that's the book for this week. The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. And I gave it a 5-star. I need to go and review it more because it was just that wonderful. And I enjoyed it so much. So yeah, thank you so much, Amy, for the book recommendation. You're awesome. And it's everything I have for this week. Until next week, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I just said the word week 4 times. And then you get to do all the things you love. Okay, bye guys.